Are we live?
I'm not sure. I'll let you know when I can see. Yeah, we're live.
All right. Well, hello everybody. We are going to look today into one of our students' live footage. He was playing 25NL on Unibat. And yeah, we're gonna try and find some of his leaks. Gonna put the recording on to X speed, and when we find the spot we're talking about, we're just gonna go through it. Okay, so here a 3-bet, king 9 suited, small blind versus button, and we see a monotone flop. Some of these we can bet quite often, some of them a bit less often, and yeah, usually we need to use a small size, so 25%, 10%, either of those is fine. I don't know, anything to add about this, Paul?
No, I would generally just be betting this at a high frequency for a small sizing.
He decides to go for a check. And although I don't think we need to range bet this board, and maybe this hand is a check from time to time, if we always check these hands that have, not much equity, then we are really under c-betting. So yeah, we need to find some c-bets with this kind of hands. That doesn't mean we need to c-bet them all the time. Okay, goes the opponent check back, turns a deuce. And now he's thinking about betting, but decides to go for a check. Anything about this, Paul?
No, I think once we decide to skip a flop c-bet and then our opponent checks back, I'd still be selective about the hands that I'm going to probe on the turn, but I think we can be over aggressive. So if we looked at this in GTO Wizard, yeah, maybe we could do that. Pull this up in GTO Wizard, see how we're probing on the turn. Or delay c-betting, sorry. I think I would be a little bit more aggressive because I don't think a lot of opponents in real games will check back with some hands that they should on the flop. I'd imagine some flush draws should be checked back.
Flushes.
Flushes, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, there's quite a significant amount of flushes that are supposed to check back, and even some sets, some overpairs. I mean, that's probably just checks and some queens, but even those are supposed to check back sometimes. So yeah, I agree with you that I think people will not find that these traps as much. So then when we get to the turn, we can definitely be way more aggressive than these. I mean, here we see king 9 suited is basically indifferent to bluffing or checking, but if our opponent is not as protected, the AV of bluffing will definitely go up.
Yeah, I think one thing to mention here is just that GTO Wizard is choosing the pot bet size. So can we click that and just see what hands are meant to do for in position when we bet? Just press bet. Yeah, so this puts a lot of hands in a tough spot. Any even pair, like, this is the thing. I think in real games though, you like a lot of like 9s, 8s, 7s, 6s in this line will end up calling probably more than they should, even when they haven't got a heart.
Yeah, I think that's a good point actually.
But yeah, interesting because I think in game he was did he bet for a small size, or what was the size he chose?
No, he decided to check. Oops. He decided to go for a check. He thought of betting and he wanted to pick half pot, but he ended up checking.
Okay.
And now he reversed top pair, and he's also considering a small bet, but ends up checking. And he loses to king jack. So on the river, I think our hand is a bit too weak to value bet unless we're facing some kind of huge station. Um, and yeah, I think checking is pretty much the way to go here.
Yeah, just be check calling most of the time, I think. Just wanted to say to everyone that is watching the stream, we have 50% off Run It Once Essential. If we could just put the tag in the chat, just so you guys can sign up during this hour-long stream and get 50% off Run It Once Essential.
Yeah, and also this offer will only be available during the stream, so make sure you catch it.
Okay, what we got then?
Okay. What's happening with this?
Sometimes it plays up. It's happened to me as well. You can either restart it or you can like go back. No, yeah, and then try press playing again. Yeah, now it's playing. You need to go. Yeah, just to there. Perfect.
Okay, what happened here with the ace deuce? I guess we open button,
So,
get called by the
yeah,
big blind.
we open and we see a king 2 flop. So here I'd just be, I would personally just be range betting. This is a really good board for us. We're going to have a lot more king x, we're going to have hands like 8s, 9s, 10s, jacks, queens as well. So we can put our position in a tough spot with a high frequency small bet. So I like this from.
Yeah, I agree. And also on
Hero.
Sorry?
I said I like this from Hero. Sorry. Go on.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also on this board, even on these high ones, big blind is supposed to check raise quite a high frequency, and there's very few opponents who hit that, so that is better for small bets, high frequency. I guess here we folded pre-flop. Here ace jack, I guess we're gonna play this one. Okay, so we open ace jack, board is 3 broadways, ace king queen, quite a good board for us. You could implement different strategies here. I think you could range bet, you could go for more polar bets, you could go for half pot. When the board is so good for us, we can basically go for any strategy, and we're still going to print TV. Wanna add anything about the flop strategy?
No, it's fine.
Okay, we just bet, he folds. Hopefully we don't play this one. Is this on 2x? Okay.
Yeah, it seemed very slow, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. This was blind versus blind?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the hand. Why did
this... Try not to do that, because we're just going to be jumping back and forth. If I say it's blind versus blind, just trust me.
Okay, so open from the small blind, goes for a check, and he goes for a 3/4, right?
Yeah. And then we face a raise, check raise.
Personally, I think on this type of boards, I would like to bet a bit smaller and a bit mergier. It's quite a good board for us, but because of that, a lot of people in the small blind just check range. So they are really uncapped and they still have a bunch of strong hands in their range. Therefore, I don't think I'd like to go too big here. Jack 10 can bet, can also check back, facing a check raise. We're not super happy, but yeah, I don't think betting is a mistake. I would usually go smaller.
Yeah, I would just say that once we face the check raise, we're not super happy, but obviously we're never going to fold with 2 overs and get shot to the net. So always continuing here. Okay, yeah, that's a bit of a mistake there.
Yeah, the bet fold, I agree. That is a bit of a mistake. If you are... Sorry?
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say that if you're betting that hand and planning to bet fold, that's not ideal. So instead of doing that, it's probably much better to just check back, especially on a board where they will find a lot of check raises because they naturally check a lot.
Yeah, and I was just going to add that, we're in position there, so we get to play in position on turns and rivers as well. So it adds to our EV as opposed to if we were out of position with that hand. Obviously, be a very different situation.
I remember this about Unibet. I've never played there, but I heard you can basically change you can have a few nicknames and change them from time to time.
Yeah, Shane Jackson asked, does Unibet still not let you auto top up at 100 big blind at ring games? And I think the answer to that is no. I think you have to top up yourself.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. As I said, never played Unibet. I see he's having 100 big blind stacks, but I didn't notice if he topped up or not. Maybe we'll see in this footage. Here we open threes from the cutoff, which I think is fine. The board is king, queen, 9. On this board, when it's king high, we can start implementing some c-bets, but king, queen, 9 is, I imagine, in these spots we need to check quite a lot, because button's range is quite condensed while our opening range from the cutoff is pretty wide, and he's mostly going to have pairs and broadways. So yeah, these spots, once button calls, overall we need to check a lot. And in this spot with threes, I see some merit to c-betting, but if we do that, I think I'd at least prefer having a heart. Any thoughts, Paul? How would you play this spot?
Yeah, generally, if I was going to bet with threes, I prefer to have the heart. I think one positive in this spot is that the guy on the button is short stack, so he could have potentially way too many hands that he's calling on the button. So that's something to just be aware of. If you see any showdowns, this guy might be calling hands like 5, 6 off, 7, 8 off pre-flop, which should never really happen. But yeah, just to keep in mind, I don't think it's going to make any difference in this situation because we haven't got the read yet, but something to be aware of.
Yeah, I didn't notice he was short stacker. My poker processor is not turned on yet. Okay, we go for a small c-bet. Again, against a recreational player, this is very opponent dependent if we want to bet or not. Against some, we kind of want to bet all the time and bet very wide. And against others who are very passive, not going to stab a lot, we'd rather bluff with late c-bets or take it to showdown or whatever. So he goes for a small bet, it turns to 7. And now he checks. Anything to say about turn? Would you do anything different?
No, I would just be checking. I would mostly just be checking flop, if I'm honest. Maybe because he's a recreational, we can bet a bit more. But I think I'd mostly check. And then, yeah, on turn, once I got called, I would probably just shut down. And again, I think I would just check river. I don't think this is the type of river that is going to get a lot of folds. I think if someone calls on the button on the flop here, if they've got 9x, queen x, if they've called with pairs, I think they're a lot more likely to call when the board pairs. And we can still show down against some hands. Like I wouldn't be surprised if the opponent just goes for a check back on the river. Sometimes with hands like ace jack, ace 10. So some ace x of hearts as well. So
yeah, exactly. I agree with you. But he decides to go for 3/4, and again, I don't think I like that bluff much. Probably, as you said, checking flop, and just trying to take it to showdown from the flop is a better way to go, or giving up turn. Here we open king 9 on the small blind. We fold. Forced on the button, flopping any sets. Nah. Okay, did you see what happened here with the 8-9?
It's just a limp pot.
A limp pot. Okay. Here we flat with ace-8 suited. I think this hand you can also squeeze sometime, but flatting is also fine.
What do you mean no snars? A 3-bet pot.
What?
It was a 3-bet pot. We folded pre-flop.
Oh, sorry. I think we should take this one by one, and this is a bit confusing for me. It gets too fast.
Yeah, maybe take it down to 1.5x. We don't want to be telling people the wrong action here. So yeah, we're in this limp pot here. I would be tempted on this turn to start. Maybe not on this turn, just because it's paired, and I think people will just end up calling down correctly with ace highs. But if this was a different turn, maybe like a 6 or a 7, I'd be tempted to like start betting sometimes, just because in limp pots ranges are super wide, and I'm just particularly aggressive in those spots. I don't think people end up calling down as much as they should. But on this turn, I'd just end up giving up, and I would be continuing with king 9 on the top left.
I think you can use this as a 4-bet from time to time, although calling is probably the standard way to go. I think though, if the rake structure is very high, this becomes a 0 EV call. I'm not really sure about the rake on 25 and I'll unibet though. Facing a 1/3 c-bet, I don't really see the point of doing anything else but calling here. I mean, against some people, I guess you could find some raises with your range, but I think those hands should be, the kind of hands that are a bit too weak to call, but a bit too good to fold. And, they don't really mind facing a 3-bet or hands that are a bit stronger than this. This one, I think I would just go for a call. I don't know, Paul, do you see any merit in, raising or doing anything else here?
No, I just go for a call here.
Okay, I'm not really sure what the thought process behind raising here is.
Okay, let's keep going.
Are we turning this into a bluff?
Maybe press pause so we don't miss the action with the ace-9 as well. Yeah, just in this spot. Yeah, I'm not really sure what we're doing. I think this. I'm not sure. I'm not going to try and break down what's going on here, but this is just a pretty standard, like, just call flop spot. This isn't the type of hand that you want to be raising. And then we found ourselves on the turn in a weird spot. We've gone for a continue, and we've just had to fold versus an all in. So yeah, don't really like that play. I think we severely misplayed our hand strength there.
Yeah, I think something to note here is, sometimes we need to have raises, particularly if our opponent range bets and so on, but the EV of, having raises here is not going to, so the EV is not going to be very high if you have raises or if you just call, and a lot of time it's just better to play a simple strategy well than playing a very complicated strategy bad. So yeah, in this spot, I think that's something that's happening. Going for a 3-bet here on the button. I think that's fine. Versus 3x, we probably want to 3-bet a bit more and call a bit less. Unless it's a sizing tell, he just folds. Here with 7s, we open small blind or?
Yes.
On this board, I don't think we need to see bet very often. Again, you can implement different strategies if you're going to look into GTO Wizard. It might even find some overbets on this texture. But yeah, you can bet small. You can even range check if your opponent is aggressive.
Spiros TV says, long time, nice to see you again, Alexandra.
Hi, Spiros. Long time no see. What are you doing? How's life? What are you playing nowadays? This was Chuck and Chuck to the river. Is this too thin to value bet here for a small size? I don't think so.
No, I think I would personally be value betting. You're going to be able to get called by hands like 5, 6s, 3x, 4x. And yeah, if we choose a small size, ace-x should be calling here as well sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. And exploitatively speaking, I think in this spot, well, again, it depends on the opponent. Versus really aggressive guys, you probably want to check more and let them bluff because they will over bluff. But something that's happening is against these thin value bets, people don't really raise enough for value or as a bluff. And that allows us to value bet more often and more things. So this one, yeah, I agree, should probably be a value bet very frequently. But we just check, and he checks back king high. Here with ace jack offsuit, we go for a 4-bet. That's perfectly fine. Button versus small blind, and hopefully we fold to the shove.
Okay, nice to see him ISOing pretty aggressively.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe versus this guy, we could make it. I mean, no, 3.6 is good. But if he was deep stack, we could. We should probably ISO even bigger. Okay, so we go for an ISO. We're facing a Donk. You've done quite a lot of studying on Donk on Donks, right? I guess recreationals. So what do you think?
So the main thing to understand with Donks versus recreationals is just they often telegraph their hand strength through their bet sizing. So for anything under a 60% sizing, it's very often going to be all sorts of hands, completely trash hands, weak hands. Hands like 3x, 4x here, merged hands. They're going to be doing this with things like ace-2, ace-5, 5-6, to draws, and then just random overcards as well. If we were deeper against this player, I'd be inclined to be aggressive because another thing that I've found from working on donk bets versus recreationals is that they very often donk boards like this. So like this board, even if it was button versus big blind, isn't necessarily a high frequency donk spot. So yeah, this isn't really something he should be doing. But yeah, I guess at this stack depth, I'd probably just end up folding.
Okay, we just.
But I would keep a make a note in game against this guy that he dunked on that type of board and the sizing he went as well. Because if we see this happening a little bit too often, I'd be very aggressive.
Okay, we open ace king, everybody folds.
Missed the open there with king 2 suited. I'd be opening that in the cutoff. It's a little less attractive when the button is a recreational mind who's shorter stacked. But I still think it's okay.
Yeah, I think against shorter stacks, you might want to actually shift your opening range towards higher cards rather than, low suited connectors and so on. So even with the recreational, I think it's fine to open.
Yeah, I'd prefer to open king 2 suited there than a hand like 4 or 5 suited.
Yeah. Here we open 9-8 under the gun, right?
Yeah.
We get called by the small blind, who's a recreational. I think here you could go either way. Again, it's quite important to know what his tendencies is. There is merit to batting 1/3 because a lot of recreationals will call really, really wide in this spot, not going to check raise enough. But on the other hand, facing a check back, a lot of them might just over bluff. So, without having any reads, I don't think I have a big preference from any of those.
I would personally be just betting this at a high frequency for a small size. We know that this guy's a recreational, so he's probably got a super, super wide range. And yeah, just going for a a small sizing is going to punish that super wide range. It's not like he's a regular who's going to have, a normal small blind flat in range, so I wouldn't be too concerned here.
Yeah, I agree with that. I wouldn't be too concerned either. I just think there's some EV to begin putting that into a bluff catching line as well. But maybe
Yeah, I
we
agree.
want to have to pick hands that need a bit less protection than 8-9. 6-8 here. This was blind versus blind, and we were facing a small bet, right?
We're facing half pot, c-bet.
Half pot c-bet. Yeah, I think then this is just a fold. Jack 9, I guess we open, get called by the small blind, and then faced probe on the jack turn, right?
Yeah.
Alright, so here when I see flatting the small blind, I think most often this will be a recreational, although it can also be a regular. And we want to bet, he will probably be a bit tighter than big blind will be. And we want to bet quite polar. I think this hand is quite fine to bet because it has an over, it does block some 10x, he might have a really wide range again, and yeah, I think we could just bet the flop. We don't really mind facing a check raise either.
Spiro says, I'm in Prague next month for the EPT. Maybe you're going to be there.
Yeah, I'm not really planning next month to go anywhere, just staying home for Christmas with family and grinding online. But maybe we will meet sometime next year. Planning any live trips?
And then Toby says, nice. The thing I heard about Haxton say about donks is that they usually show up with bullshit if they expect us to bet a lot when they check. I think that could be true. But again, I think something I found a lot as well is that recreationals very often donk on boards that they perceive to be really good for them, and sometimes those boards aren't necessarily good for them, or even on boards where they perceive you to have missed a lot as well. So something you'll very often find is recreationals going for a donk on paired boards because they perceive you to have just missed those boards a bunch. But again, they end up donking with a super wide range and with hands that they shouldn't, and they nearly always check their trips to go into check raise in range as well. So that's something to be aware of.
Anything to add about this hand against small blind?
No, I think it's fine.
Okay, on the turn facing 3/4, I think that's just a call pretty much always.
Yeah, I don't like this. We've just gone for the snap. Can you just press play it for a second? Yeah, we've just gone for the snap call. River in 2-pair. I think we should at least take our time here and decide whether we want to go for a raise. I think we faced it 33% sizing as well. So with Jack 9, I would sometimes just be raising this. We're going to be up against a bunch of weaker hands, but I think it's close. The main thing here, though, is just I wouldn't be snap calling this hand. I'd be at least thinking about raising.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good point. It's important to be aware of the sizings and wonder what the worst hand that he bets for value is there, and often, especially against the recreational, it's going to be worse than ours, so we should consider raising. Ace king on the button, we get mean 3 bets. I think I would just shove here, or at least 4 bet small and get it in. It's probably the same thing in this scenario, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd probably just end up jamming as well. I think he's going to end up calling way too wide with ace-x. This is fine as well. We're basically saying we're all in, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Press play.
Yeah, no, I was looking at this other hand. I think we get 3 bets, right? By a recreational to a small size. Should I go back? See the size?
Yeah, go.
I hope it's not gonna crash again.
Yeah, so we get 3 bets to smaller sizing.
I'm not sure. Do they allow any kind of HUDs or stats or anything on Unibets?
No, we haven't got access to it, even if it is.
Okay, well, I don't think this is snap call, especially if the rake is high, and this is the kind of recreational who's not rebetting a lot. I think this is actually quite close, even against ATAX.
Yeah, one thing I would say here is that often players at lower stakes see a recreational three bet to a smaller size and assume that we just have to widen our call range. We have to keep in mind that when a recreational or when anybody three bets, the thing that decides our call range is going to be the size and the range that they're three bet in. And as a general rule, unless they're like a aggressive recreational, most recreationals are going to be quite passive pre-flop and not find as many three bets as they should. So yeah, I agree with you. Even though it's a smaller size, I still think this is very close.
Yeah, I think you made a very good point there that we need to be aware that some recreationals are passive pre-flop, and that means we actually need to be careful against their three bets, but also when we find ourselves post-flop in a three bet pot against them, if they're the kind of recreationals who three bet 4 or 5%, 7 even, it's quite difficult for them to over bluff post-flop. So even if you do call, you need to be careful. We are now facing a 3/4 pot size. This is a bit weird because I expect to get shoved on the turn very, very often. Do you think there's any point in raising ourselves here?
No, I think I would.
Yeah.
I think it's fine either way. If you went for raise, I'd mostly just end up reverting to just calling here. I think something that can often happen is that we just end up getting to see a free river. If he is really tight pre-flop, there's going to be a bunch of turns where he just finds a check back because it's just not great for his hand. And then we might get to realize our equity a lot more.
Yeah, that's a good
I think
point.
if we for instance, if we raise here, we're always just getting snapped by his overpairs. But if we just call here, there's going to be some turns, 7x, 9x, queen x, and things like this where we just get to sometimes check back and realize all of our equity.
Yeah, and I also don't think this is the kind of spot where if we shove, we have a bunch of fold equity. I expect something like ace queen to find a call that's double gutter, or ace king or flush draw. So yeah, I don't think this is a good spot to shove, but I do expect to get shoved on the turn quite often. Wow, and now I'm super happy to see it, but okay. King eight
Yeah,
off.
but if you can pause there a minute, if you could just go back a little. I would just make a note that in this spot that he did three bet king eight off pre-flop in the small blind. That's like never supposed to be a three bet. So yeah, he's obviously super wide pre-flop, and he's three bet into a smaller size. So this actually is the spot where we should be widening our call-in range pre-flop and finding some more four bets as well.
Yeah, so knowing this, he played well, and that probably does become a call. But if you just snapped without having any reads, then it's still a bad call. Call from a short stack in the small blind again. We can probably assume this is a recreational almost all of the time. I don't think this is the kind of spot where we want to see bet very often, and when we do, we probably want to be a bit more polar. I don't think I would see bet this hand here.
No, I wouldn't either. Nice check.
Okay, then we have 6-7 opening, a bunch of hands going on here. Okay, so
Yeah, so we've missed some action on the top right table. So we opened small blind, big blind calls. We got a flop at Jack 7-5, and we went for a 1/3 C bet. I think I would maybe size up on a Jack 7-5 two-tone board. I wouldn't be range betting this board, so I would go for a bigger size in with my value hands. My bluffs with my range. I would just go for a bigger size in. So yeah, we missed that, and then 6-7 as well.
Yeah, I think constructing a strategy around the bigger size is fine, but also going small and not range betting. I think that's also a really decent strat, so I don't think it's a mistake.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, should we just talk about this and then go back to this one if anything happens?
I assume, yeah, we'd just see bet for small size top left, limp folds. We go for a check,
Yeah,
yeah, which I think is fine. I still think we could still find some value bets on this turn.
yeah, it's not a great card for us, but this doesn't mean it turns into a range jack, and something like queen jack is still strong enough to value bet.
Yeah, I'd probably be going for some value on that river. I don't think on a king river, many imposition opponents are going to be finding a lot of bluffs on that card because it is perceived to be so good for our range. So yeah, I would just be value betting with queen jack, getting worse jack x worse jack x 5x. I think you may even get some hero calls from ace highs as well, being a paired board, as well as just basically any pair, pocket pair, 2s, 3s, 4s.
Yeah, yeah, I do agree. It does seem like a bit of a pattern, or no, that he's missing these thin value bets on the river for small sizes. I think we've seen it in a few hands already.
Yeah, even in this fight, I think we could even go bigger than a small size. Like I think Queen Jack is quite a strong hand by the time we get to this river.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
If we go back a little bit, we've just missed the action on the bottom left table. Olaf Henk says, "What limit is this?" And this is NL 25.
This one?
Yeah, I just wasn't sure what happened pre-flop.
Okay.
It'll come up now. Don't have to. Okay, it's a ISO pot then.
I think you can make it even bigger. He's a bit shorter, so that's an argument for not going super big, but yeah, out of position, especially if he's very wide, I think going bigger is probably the way to go.
Yeah, I think then on this flop of Jack 10 9, I would probably end up just c-betting quite often myself. This is going to be a board that is really good for us. Yeah, I'd probably end up just c-betting very often for a small size on this board. And with Ace King, I'd probably still c-bet with Ace King as well.
Yeah, I don't think I have a huge preference. I think Ace King can also go for a check call, but again, it's quite useful to know his tendencies because if he's just going here for a stab one and done very often, I think calling is going to perform. Going for a check call is going to perform decent. But if he's like super aggressive and just going to triple barrel as a stab here, then I probably prefer to bet myself.
Yeah, I agree.
When he stabs for 3/4, I would just keep that in mind. I'm not saying it's a tell. Some people just do it one and done with a random hand like this guy did. But sometimes it is a sizing tell. And the sooner you figure out, what's going on, the sooner you can find really good exploits against these recreationals. And what happened here, I think that's very worth taking a note of. I think he bet Queen X was an open-ender. He stabbed for 3/4 and then just snap-checked it to showdown. I think that's quite a powerful read to have,
So it's also really powerful to just see that he had Queen 5 off that limped and then called an ISO like this way too wide, So just understanding just how wide he is in all spots is going to be really beneficial. And then one other note I just wanted to make here is when we open Jack 8 and we face a 3-bet of 10 big blinds, this is just going to be a 4-bet or fold situation with our whole range. We're facing extremely poor pot odds, and so I wouldn't be having any calls in this situation. I often see players going for just having calls in this situation, but I think that's theoretically a mistake.
Yeah, I agree. Theoretically, it's a mistake. In practice, again, I think this is also recreational. So I think personally, I would probably have some calls with maybe just ace queen suited. That's a hand I don't really want to like four bet get in. I don't really want to fold it. So you don't need to be balanced against this kind of opponents. So I think if you just call, four combos here, that's not going to be a problem.
Yeah, that's a nice point.
King 7 here of clubs again. Do I have a deja vu? We just
let's see what happens. If you're trigger happy with that pause button.
Yeah,
we might just find a fold.
Find a fold.
On the flop, yeah, it's probably just going to be a fold spot, right?
What if he checks back?
Well, that's when we pause the video. There you go. See, we just fold.
I'll let you talk about the next hand. I need to run to the toilet. It's quite an emergency.
Okay, do you want to pause when we're on a hand then?
Yeah, let's find a hand.
Okay.
You want to talk about this flop? Talk about everything that could happen on this flop.
On which hand?
I don't know, 7 deuce 9.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Tell people about the promotion. I'm gonna be back quickly.
Okay. Yeah, so in this bottom left spot on 972, I personally implement a big bet or a check strategy. I think Queen Jack is a hand that we can put into our big bet range. We're going to be able to get a lot of king highs and ace highs to fold. We're also going to be able to clear out a lot of outs as well. So you're going to see hands like King Jack offsuit just fold in this flop. So the times that is a jack or a queen on the turn, very often we've got the best hand. And then as for value, I would mostly be going for value with my 9x and then over pairs. That's going to be the range that is really just driving the big bets here for me. And something that I see like other lower stakes players make the mistake of is thinking that this board is going to be really good for them just because it's low. But it's not really connected to big blind's range in a meaningful way. Like we're going to open hands like 9-7 suited. It's not as if they're defending a lot of hands that are going to be connected to this flop. And as Alexandra just said, there's a promotion going on at the moment during this stream, and it's only going to be live for this stream, where you can get 50% off an essential membership. If we can just post, I think it was discount in the chat.
Yeah, it was.
You guys can get 50% off. And also, just something to mention to you guys is that myself and Alexandra run a poker Discord. We have a lot of members posting hands for review, a lot of just random information, and then also we run some study streams on there as well. So if any of you would like to join the Discord, then the link is in the chat as well. Okay.
Thank you. Should we play then?
Yep, let's go. If you just want to, I was going to say pause, but I didn't see the bet. I think he went for a 1/3 on this Ace Jack 3 board. Again, this is a board that is just going to be extremely good for us in middle position. I would probably end up going for a bigger size, and I still think we could end up range betting this board. As I said, we're going to open some pocket threes. We're going to be opening Ace 3 suited. We're going to be opening Ace Jack. We're going to have the strongest Ace X. We're going to have jacks and aces. Our opponent isn't going to have aces and jacks and many ace jack suited, but we are up against the recreational. So again, I would just be looking at what my hand wants to do, and against the recreational player with ace 10 here, I'm just going to probably bet for a large sizing because they're going to have they're probably going to overcall, and they're going to call on too many turns as well. So I just start building the pot with my strongest hands.
Yeah, I agree. I think on these boards, some recreationals are going to be a bit more elastic, meaning, calling all their pairs and gachos to a one third, but folding way more against three quarters. But in general, that's probably, overall, you're still going to gain more value by going big on these flops, especially when he's a recreational and you can probably go for stacks here with ace 10.
Yeah.
Here we just 3-bet and they fold. Queen Jack here, just going for a check back. I think it's fine from time to time, but this is a board where we can probably bet very high frequency and we can go for a big size. Queen Jack is a decent hand to bet because, well, it has two overcards and it also has a bunch of turns that bring either a gut shot or an open under that we can keep barreling on. So I think Queen Jack is quite a good bet, and if you check it back from time to time, it's fine, but if you check it back very often, then it's not going to be fine. Facing a 3/4 probe, I think we just fold this.
Yep, I agree.
One thing that I would like to add here is that these spots are actually, from what I see in data, they're actually massively overbluffed, and people do tend to pro bet too often with a bluff and a bit too little for value, so they don't probe thin enough for value and using this size. And this means like Queen Jack, I wouldn't call it, but I might consider raising it against some opponents, even though that might not be, GTO approved play.
Yeah, and in the same vein, you might want to find some more checkbacks with some hands that can face turn probes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we see bet ace-8 on king 10-8, see a 10 on the turn, and we check back. And then I would just be calling probably any size. Well, not any size, but I'd be calling most sizes on the river. I think it just starts to become a little bit less attractive if we see like a pot size plus. But any other size, I'm generally going to be calling, I think, with ace-8. Our recreational friend in the big blind is going to have a wealth of bluffs to choose from. Hands like Jack-9, Queen-9, Queen-Jack, Ace-Queen, Ace-Jack, 9-7, 9-6, all sorts of hands. So yeah, I would never be folding this against a recreational if we face a bet.
Yeah, I agree with that. But sometimes something that I would add is I think I prefer checking back flop here because, like, from what we've seen until now, I might be wrong, but from what we've seen until now, this guy seems very, very wild. He seems to be playing almost every hand. So I just think there's more value to get in general from letting him bluff everything that misses this board, which is going to be a lot of low cards, than betting myself and trying to get value from just, ace highs, which I block, and some gut shots, and so on. So I think with this hand, I do prefer checking back flop and calling down quite often, unless the run out is bad.
Yeah, the one thing I would just add there is I do agree in some ways with what you're saying, but if we bet with ace-8, we are just going to get random queen-5, queen-6 to fold. We're going to get value from worse ace-8x, sorry. And like on a lot of turns and rivers, if we just check with ace-8 here, the visibility of bluff catching becomes a little poorer. Like I think I personally prefer to check back a hand like king x or 10x as opposed to something like ace-8. But again, these are just really small details.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, I think this is a really bad fold if we end up making a fold there.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree.
Looks like he's thinking it through. Yep. And then this is the other thing that you see as well, and things that I've seen in data is that recreationals end up bet merged as well on these rivers. So you see hands like fours, or you see a hand like pocket sevens. So it pushes up the value of a hand like ace eight way way higher.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, it pushes down the value of bluff catchers, such as ace queen. I don't think queen was a pair, right? Like random ace highs that are quite good are going to perform worse. And also, when you see that kind of bad size, you need to understand that you need to be good very, very infrequently. So you are supposed to lose most of the time, but that even if you lose most of the time, it's still very profitable to call.
Yeah, I would never be folding Jack 10 here. I think that's a pre-flop mistake. Yeah, we've got a recreational into the gun who's limped, and then we've got a recreational who's just gone to 2.4 big blinds. So I'm very happy to play multi-way with two recreationals. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. If it was two regulars, though, well, a regular wouldn't limp, but yeah, if it was three ways with two regulars, this hand becomes a bit shitty. It's just one check, 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 check. Yeah, don't think I'd be bluffing this river against two recreationals. Don't expect enough full equity.
Did you skip ahead?
No.
Oh, because I missed some of the action on some of the other tables as well. Bottom left table, I didn't really see what happened, or top left table.
Okay, we can go back. So bottom left, we open under the gun. A lot of recreational players at these tables, it seems like. Probably quite good at table selection.
Yeah.
Here we defended against an MP open, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And we open king queen here, and we got a flat call from the recreational, right? Bottom left.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay. And the big blind is also in the hand, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a pure check. I don't really see many reasons to bet this on a monotone board out of position with two recreationals. And the queen 10 facing a 3/4 pot size bet. I think it's mostly going to fold against MP. Not really sure.
Yeah, it seems like something like I feel like you're like thinking the same as me. It seems really close. Because we've got two overs, backdoor flush draw, backdoor straight draw. But again, that's going to be, if we look at GTO, I'd imagine it's going to be very close. I wouldn't be surprised to see it, be really, really close in EV between folding and calling against a real opponent who is likely going to put too many strong hands into a bigger sizing and not enough weaker hands, as NL25 specifically. I'd be more inclined to just pure fold this hand.
Yeah, I was thinking if there's some merit in raising, but in order to raise this, I think we need to face an opponent who's oversea betting for this size, and then it probably becomes a decent raise. Yeah, but I don't have reads on the 25NL population, but I would assume there's not a lot of people who just massively overbluff for this size.
No, I agree. I think you'll often see, strong value hands and then strong or high equity hands.
Yeah, again, what did he just call? He wanted to raise and just called?
Yeah, he sort of dialed as if he was going to raise, and then he just called, yeah.
I think if you want to continue this hand, still raising might perform a bit better. Because I expect a lot of turn barrels in this spot. There's not a lot of turn cards that we're super happy seeing, like maybe a Jack of Clubs or something, but like there's no card that we're excited to see. So yeah, if we were to continue, I think raising is better, but mostly just folding. And we can 3-bet ace 8 here from time to time. And you see that was probably a sizing tell, and I would also take a note on that. That was too loose of an open king nine offsuit from MP. Probably shows that he's a recreational.
Yeah, or he's just not paid enough attention to his to pre-flop charts.
Maybe. He also opened 3x, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is something you're going to see at NL25 is even regular players are going to be making pre-flop mistakes, and they might just be opening 3x as their sizing and be slightly off with their ranges.
Yeah, I'm not saying he can't be a regular, but I think the chances are combining the 3x open and the king 9 offsuit that he's probably not a regular. Should we do one or two more hands and start wrapping up?
Yeah, sounds good.
And now we're gonna wait for 10 minutes until he plays another hand.
Yeah, now we're just gonna have folds now.
You jinx it. The ladies here, top right. Fold, fold. Should I speed it up?
No, it's okay. If you want to pause it a minute, I was just going to say to people in the chat that I was just going to mention for the last time that if you guys wanted to sign up for Essential, you get 50% off. This is only going to be running for the last few minutes of the stream, which is about to end. So yeah, we can carry on now, but just thought I'd give people one last chance. And also just let them know that if they wanted to join our Discord, then the link is in the chat for you guys to join.
I think it's actually going to work 1 hour from when the stream ends. So if you hurry up, you can get the offer.
Okay, cool.
Let's see him folding a bit more.
I've got a feeling this king queen hand's going to be a big one.
A feeling.
It can't be too big. We're against the 23 big blind recreational.
So yeah,
go for it. Go for an ISO. Jack A4 flop. I think I would probably end up just betting this board. Recreationals are going to have a super wide range that can end up folding a lot. And we have 2 overs backdoor flush. So it also is a bit weird though as well at the same time because he's so short stacked. I wouldn't really want to face a jam. So yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, one strategy that I like to use against recreational players when I'm out of position is to bluff to start betting with my higher equity hands and with hands that don't really have a lot of equity, just to check, and then start bluffing a lot with delayed c-bet. I think this is a really good strategy because what you see is that they do tend to overcall c-bets in position. So when they overcall, what you want to do is shift your bluffs towards hands that have a bit more equity, and then when you miss, you want to keep bluffing. And at the same time, recreationals really tend to underprotect their check back range. So once they check back and you get to the turn, they massively overfold to delayed c-bets on both, betting turn and river, or just betting turn, or just betting river. So yeah, that being said, I think this hand is somewhere in between. I wouldn't say it's like a no equity bluff. I wouldn't say it's a high equity bluff either. So I don't really mind. I think both options work, but if I do check, I would try to bluff it on later straight. A big one. Oh no. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think maybe in these spots where you are against recreationals, you want to consider that they are very likely to see something like 9 big blind size, the same as 11.5. As long as it's under pot, they probably perceive it as the same bat size, so I would probably just scroll up a little bit, but that's just a small detail.
Yeah, I just want to see what happens here. Queen Jack, okay, that's just a call pre-flop. That's fine. And we're calling Queen 10, so we'll make these two our last two hands.
Okay. I do think this is a fine call, obviously, against 2x. But if they go higher, so 2.5x, and you are in a high rake structure, these hands are actually not performing very well multi-way. You'd rather call some, lower suited connectors or something like that. With Queen 10, I guess we're just facing a check, right?
Yeah, so in this spot, I would probably end up betting. I wouldn't be stabbing very often. And when I do stab, I would start to use a bigger sizing. But it looks like we're again going for a 1/3 here.
Yeah, I think on these boards you can stab. I mean, not on these boards, but like on Broadway low boards, you can shift towards a mergier stabbing strategy and bet small. But I think for that to happen, you want these cards to be lower, or at least not to bring so much connection with stuff like Jack 9 and 9-10 and those higher cards. So I think if this was something like Queen 6 deuce or Queen 5-3 or something, just betting small and mergy is a bit better. But once the board gets higher, I agree that we probably want to go for a bigger size and not stab very often.
Okay, let's see what happens. I assume we just check on the Queen Jack hand. Going to be check folding versus any size, three ways. Personally. However, it checks round. We get an 8 of diamonds on the turn, and I think I would start betting this hand fairly frequently. I think it has nice properties. Obviously, we've got any 10 as outs against pairs in villains ranges. We've got two overcards, and we've got potentially some diamonds as outs as well. We can also get some king high and ace high to fold in both players' ranges as well. So, and I wouldn't be surprised to see some people fold lower pairs as well. So yeah, I think I would mostly end up betting this hand. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree, and I would add that I think this is also the kind of scenario that we were mentioning about in the beginning of the stream, where people just don't protect their checking back ranges enough. So in this spot, he is supposed to check here quite a bunch of overpairs, a lot of flash draws and so on. And we're not saying, I'm not saying he's never going to check those, but I think in terms of frequency, his range is going to be much weaker than it should be, which obviously allows us to bet more often. And I think the other thing is that we have quite a bunch of equity with his hands overcards, as Paul said, a gut shot, flush draw, but it doesn't really perform well as a check call. So if we're considering all the options that we have here, I think betting is probably the best one.
Okay, we do go for the bet. I think that's going to be a wrap there, right?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, well, thanks for everyone who tuned in live. It was nice of you to join. And yeah, as we said, if you want to get 50% off a Run It Once Essential membership, you just have to put in stream into the code section to get 50% off. It's going to be running for around an hour after this stream. And for anyone else watching this after the fact, if you guys would like to join our Discord, you'd be able to find that in probably the comment section. Anything else, Alexandra?
No, I think that's pretty much it. Thanks for joining. Hope to see you in the future on these streams and maybe in our Discord. For anyone interested in, escaping low stakes, we are going to run a program soon. You can find out more details about that on our Discord. And we are also planning to make this stream regular, so probably once a week. So yeah, stay tuned for the next one, and thanks for joining again.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.